D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live at First Horizon Park. It is the Nashville Sounds final homestand of the season. They host the Gwinnett Stripers tonight at 6:35. So if you haven't had an opportunity to come out to a Sounds game this season, or you're looking to squeeze in one more, now's the time. The final homestand of the season. Machine Head by Bush over the loudspeakers. That song always gets me pumped up. So I'm in a good mood. How are you guys today?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. You also will stay later.
I am.
Overtime, because you have some things that you need to do, you know, with the ball club.
Yes, I am participating in some sort of between inning competition, TBD.
Yes.
I don't know what it is yet.
Okay. Are you nervous?
You didn't get to practice?
I didn't get to practice. I'm just glad I'm not singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game like Big Joe Dubin did the other night.
Ooh.
Nobody wants to hear me sing, not even myself. So I'm hoping it's something that doesn't require too much athleticism.
Well, I mean, I can't promise you that, but
I was thinking a good old-fashioned spelling bee.
You know, in between
I was thinking
breaks,
the Dizzy Bat race.
Yeah, in between breaks, you need to go do some sprints because you never know what they're gonna have you doing. So
I'll run down the first base line.
Do some high knees.
Listen, exactly, man. I geeked out so much yesterday. It felt like Christmas. For what reason, I don't know. Well, I do know, but it felt like Christmas yesterday. So much so, I text my daughter and said, I know what I want for Christmas. And it ain't even October yet. But I said, I know what I want for Christmas.
What's that?
I geeked out on Apple's new things, the new electronics they have coming out, whether it be the phone, the watch, or the iPad, or whatever it is. I've never geeked out on anything pertaining to Apple. You know, for the last, I say 10 years. The only thing I geeked out about when it first came out, that's when I loved it. But ever since then, it was like, nah, they're just throwing things out now. I just update my phone. But for some reason, I was flicking through my Apple TV, and they got me. It said Apple, and it said play. And it tells you all the wonderful things. And they set it up so well that they caught me. They locked me in. It was like a documentary, and they had me. They knew it. They knew that I love documentaries, and they put it in a documentary form, and I loved it. They got me. So I told my daughter already, said, I know what I want for Christmas. I want an Apple Watch.
Okay.
I want an Apple Watch. That's what I want for Christmas. Anybody out there? I want an Apple Watch.
So if D-Mace is on your Christmas list,
yes. Apple Electronic.
An early list for Santa.
Yes. And I've never been big in Apple Watches. I have one, but I went looking for it last night. I can't even find it. I got to tear up my closet to look for it later on.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that. I don't know if I will be the one getting that for you, but I'm glad to hear that you want that.
Yes.
So, Eli Stowers, Vanderbilt tight end, will join us in roughly 25 minutes ahead of the Commodores matchup on the road against South Carolina on Saturday. A big game for Vanderbilt on the road in the SEC. We will talk to Eli Stowers at 3:30. Mitch Light of The Athletic will join us at 4 to continue the college football conversation. Right before we went on the air, J.C. Latham spoke to reporters, and he told them that he has ruled himself out for Sunday's game against the Los Angeles Rams. He's dealing with a hip injury. He did not practice yesterday. He did not practice today, and he has said that he will be out for Sunday's game against the LA Rams. Tavondre Sweat also did not practice again today, but no word on his status. But J.C. Latham, the team's starting right tackle, Willie and Derek, unavailable, according to him, for Sunday's game against the Rams.
That's trouble. We saw what happened on Sunday. You could tell he was laboring during the game. And we played that clip from Daniel Jeremiah, who was doing an assessment. They were going around the league in his podcast, Moving the Sticks, which I think is a good one. He's a scout. He was evaluating Cam Ward, but he was noticing how much Latham was struggling. And then he did not finish the game. So you could tell he was dealing with it. I'm hoping that this is the smart move. Sit out now, get yourself healthy. Don't have this be a thing that you're talking about for weeks and weeks during the regular season. They've got to get him healthy. Again, you have to look big picture with this whole season. It's all about J.C. Latham, not just this year, but for the rest of his career. And a hip thing for a lineman, that could be treacherous.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. This is a big blow for the offense. This is the offense that has, for the last 3 years, that have been trying to work on putting together a professional offensive line. And we thought this year was the year. It seemed like throughout camp and everything else that this offensive line was developing into the line that we expected them to be. And listen, the first game didn't start off well. JC gets hurt. Cushenberry still, we knew it was going to be a slow go for him, especially early on, coming off the Achilles. That's why, like Trevor Matt, I don't know why they chose to cut and place him on a practice squad. That one blew my mind, because you got a guy that's coming off an Achilles. Yeah, he's probably ready to go, but we all know he's not truly ready to go. Can he get out there and play? Yes, but he's not the same version that he was before the injury, and he won't get back there in the foreseeable future. It's going to take him some months to get back there. The season may damn well be over with by the time he gets back to true form. So I don't understand why they chose to cut Corey Levin and not have him on your roster. So you got Cushenberry that's still working through his injury from last year. Then JC goes down. Zeitler didn't play much during the preseason. This is bad. This is not good, especially with a rookie quarterback. The way it looked last week when JC left, it was reminiscent of last year and the year before. This is a tremendous blow. I don't care if it's for a week, 2 weeks. If it goes beyond that, they need to do something very quickly. But even for a week, this is a huge blow to an offense that needs to protect their young quarterback.
We were listening to Mike Borgonzi at the end of training camp, and he was talking about how hard it is to find tackles specifically and cornerbacks, were the two positions he said are the most difficult to find during the season. And already in game 2, you're sitting here looking at this. Now, they were able to get Levin back on the roster.
Yes.
So that's something you brought up before we went on the air, D-Mace, and I think this is a debate, and I always go to something that Brad Hopkins would mention philosophically that he thinks was best, because this has come up before. Do you put your 5 best offensive linemen on the field regardless, because Levin could play guard and you could maybe slide Zeitler to the tackle, but then you're changing 2 spots. And so I wonder if they're just going to have to grin and bear it with Ali Udo until Latham is back. But I mean, you talk about a stunt double that's not the same, right? As Latham is not a finished product. He's still only 22 years old. He's younger than Cam Ward. I still think his future is pretty bright in the big picture. But even in the short term, going from him to a backup, they just don't have any depth on this roster, and already you're dealing with it in week 2, and you're playing the Rams.
Right, the Rams, some very impressive young pass rushers. The Titans will be without J.C. Latham because of a hip injury this weekend. He addressed reporters after practice. He ruled himself out. No word on T'Vondre Sweat's status. He did not practice again today. We will talk about T'Vondre Sweat and his health later in the program. So I want to start the show by discussing Cam Ward. Cam Ward, if you are a box score scout, he did not have a good performance on Sunday in Denver. He completed 12 of 28 passes for 112 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times. Pro Football Focus pinned 2 of those sacks on Cam Ward. Our friend Teron Davenport wrote at ESPN.com that Ward's 7.3 QBR was the second lowest among quarterbacks selected number 1 overall since the stat was first recorded in 2006. I believe Tehran meant in terms of their NFL debut. Jameis Winston had a 6.4 QBR in 2015 against the Tennessee Titans. So Cam Ward, if you're just looking at the box score, you didn't watch the game, he did not perform well. But for those of us who did watch the game, all think he played better than the statistics suggest. We've talked about the drops. We've talked about Brian Callahan's bizarre coaching decisions. But there's one thing that I've noticed over the past couple of days. And I want you two to tell me if I am alone in thinking this way, at least among the three of us sitting at this table. David, if you please, let's start with Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky was on First Take this morning. Derek brought my attention to this. Dan Orlovsky, I believe he was ranking his top 5 quarterback performances of week 1. He had Cam Ward at number 3. Here's what Dan Orlovsky had to say about Cam Ward. Do we have the clip, David? Okay, let me know when you're ready. But Dan Orlovsky, he also went on the Pat McAfee show a couple of days ago and was just lavishing praise on Cam Ward. Talked about how great the tape looked. He said the tape was fire with a little fire emoji. He was excited. David, do we have Dan Orlovsky? Okay, let's play Dan Orlovsky from First Take earlier today.
It's surprising. The least talked about #1 pick in the history of the NFL draft. Cam Ward, if you ask me one word, audacious. This young man has got rocks the size of boulders. He throws the ball down the field. You want to talk about aggressive and arm arrogance, which is something RC coined years ago. This dude throws the ball in small windows and fits the ball in. Tennessee, get people to catch the football. That dude's going to be a big-time player. Number 2.
So that was Dan Orlovsky this morning on First Take. But that's not the only high praise I heard for Cam Ward. The crew at the Athletic Football Show, I really enjoyed that show. I think it's incredibly insightful. You can tell that they actually watch all of the games and not just peek at the box score when it comes to the teams that may not be the sexiest to discuss around the country. Here was the crew at the Athletic Football Show the other day discussing Cam Ward's debut.
Like, the excitement was there. If you watch this game, like if you box score watch this game, you're probably rolling your eyes at why anybody should be excited about Cam Ward. This was the best, like, 112-yard, no touchdown performance you'll ever see. He was exactly what I wanted him to be. You guys were with me today. The throw that he had, it was in the second half. He was on the O in the word Broncos in the end zone, 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage, 2nd and 8, and he rips it across his body. It's a 25-yard throw to pick up 12 yards to Calvin Ridley with somebody bearing down on him. He got hit on the throw. My soul jumped out of my body. I was like, yes, I love watching this guy play. That was ridiculous. Maybe it was ill-advised. Like, there's not very many people that I think should even try to do this, but Cam Ward can.
His soul left his body watching Cam Ward. So here's the question I had for the two of you and all of you at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines, there we go, are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Has the praise of Cam Ward's performance last week gone a little overboard?
I think there's a notion on some of these shows where you want to try to bring something to the table that is not obvious. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that. And so I think the answer is a little bit yes. Like, these things that he's got are no doubt weapons that potentially can be good. But I still think there's a little bit of exaggeration there. Like, he didn't complete any of these throws. And I know a lot of it is on the receivers, but remember, my hypothesis is he has got to find a way to get a little more touch on some of these throws that are incredible, that he can make, that others can't, but they have to be catchable. They have to be a little bit more catchable. Meet him halfway, or meet him 10% of the way, as you hopefully add better weapons for him to throw to, because these are the guys he's got to make it work with this year as he tries to survive. We knew there were going to be games like this. If you put his stats along with John Elway, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, all of their first games, he didn't do half bad, right? And his team had a chance to win the game. So there were a lot of positives, no question about it. But there's still obviously a lot to learn.
I don't think they're. I think it's sort of in the middle. I wouldn't say that they are, lauding, praise over him at a degree where it's nauseating. I don't think they're doing that. I think what is happening now is people want to make sure they watch the game before they comment, and that's what you should do. I understand right after a game you're basing on superficial things what you saw, but then if you really want to get an assessment, you go back and you watch the game. The NFL has made it really easy for those that really the football nerds. So there's nothing wrong with nerds. The football nerds and analytics, where they can really go in and mirror their analytics with what they're actually seeing on the film. And what they're seeing now in regards to Cam Ward is that, yes, the numbers look bad, but if you watch the game, it wasn't even close to what the numbers look like. He talks about the throw he made when he had to scramble, run to the right, and throw it all the way to the left. That wasn't even his best throw. It really wasn't. That was a throw that I think just about any strong arm quarterback can make. I've seen Will Levis try to make that throw. It didn't get completed. I've seen guys that are starting quarterbacks now or third-string quarterbacks that have made that throw or tried to make that throw. The two that impressed me was the one that I talked about with Calvin Ridley. When Calvin Ridley ran that 15-yard in route from the slot or from the bunch position, the minute he came out of his route and cleared that backer, the ball was that back foot hit and the ball was out and it hit him right in the chest and he dropped it. The first one he threw to Gunnar Helm, that's a drop. I don't know why PFF didn't call that a drop. He bobbled the ball. That was a tight NFL throw. He was open in NFL terms, which means he was not even a half a step open, but he had position on the guy, and he made that throw and hit Gunnar Helm right in his chest. I'm going to give Gunnar Helm a pass because he's a rookie. He came back and he made some other catches. But passes like that, it ain't that one he threw from the end zone and threw across it. I've seen guys make that throw all day. It's the ones that were on rhythm that look like NFL throws that not many young quarterbacks even have the gall to try to make the middle route with people around throwing to Calvin Ridley. Ridley, get your head around and catch the ball. The first one he threw to Gunnar Helm, you got to catch it clean. That was a quintessential NFL throw in tight spaces. Those are the two throws that impressed me, not the one he ran in the end zone.
Better than the numbers, no question. That's worth pointing out for sure. And no turnovers. I think that's a big stat on the road against that defense. That's
and no
huge.
turnover-worthy play.
Yes, until the final play of the game, which apparently they called the turnover, but I disagree. But basically, he did not hand the game over. He didn't wilt. There was a lot of good things. But I thought Orlovsky was a little over the top. It wasn't just the clip we played. There was several appearances on a couple of different car washes.
Yes.
On ESPN. Look at the tape. Look at the tape. I get it. He was better than it appeared, but there's a ton of room for improvement. And I think we're just going to have to get you. There's going to be some Sundays where there's not a lot of guys open. Like he was throwing some catchable balls into some very, very difficult spaces. But also let's talk about finding ways to have some shorter throws, easier throws to balance some of that out.
That's up to
balancing that.
That's up to the offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator has to get in his bag and figure out, how do I get the ball out of my quarterback's hand a little bit quicker? Well, first you start calling some crossing routes and some intermediate routes that he has to, even if he doesn't hit his first guy, he's scanning at second and at third, and the ball is still getting out the way it needs to. But Dan and those guys they're looking at it from the standpoint of the way I'm looking at it. This team has been bad for so long. And the one bright spot it seems like they have is the quarterback. Listen, I think Tavondre is going to be great. Got to get back on the field. I think Latham's going to be pretty good. And I hope Simmons stays and end his career here. But when you're talking about the long term, the only guy they have is the quarterback, and nobody wants to see the Titans mess him up. If he's going to mess it up, let him do it. Y'all don't be the reason why this doesn't work for him.
A good take on our what do you call it? Our YouTube chat.
Yes, our YouTube chat.
Jack says people are realizing they haven't talked about him all year, Shador and all that stuff, and that's probably some of it, right? They haven't talked about the first pick in the draft very much. He didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. And it's the first time they've really had a chance to take a look at him in a real game, and he has been a little bit under the radar. I do think that's probably some of it.
I believe that Cam Ward showed a lot of poise on Sunday in a tough environment in his NFL debut. He did play better than his box score stats say he did. I was encouraged by what I saw, and I am definitely unqualified to break down film the way that Derek Mason can, and Dan Orlovsky can, and Louis Riddick can. So I can watch the film, but don't come to me looking for an expert analysis of that film. But I just feel like over the past couple of days, I've just heard a lot of what I would call over-the-top analysis. He played better than the numbers say. And this is why it is important to, and I do this all of the time in hockey, it's important to look at the numbers, look at the eye test, see what meshes, see what doesn't. And I just feel like it, maybe the commenter on YouTube is right. Maybe all of these talking heads are just trying to make up for lost time. But I would take advice from Chris on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Please, everyone, pump the brakes on sending Cam to the Hall of Fame. Would love to see him. Win out, but he didn't really do anything to win the game. He had a bad start in the NFL's eyes. Let's talk after 6 games, and we are going to do the Cam Ward vibe checks over the course of the season. We did one right before the season started. We'll probably do one each quarter. So we will do our Cam Ward vibe checks. I just thought, because I've absorbed all of this stuff, I've listened to all of this stuff, I want to hear what smart football people have to say about how Cam Ward played. And my takeaway is, guys, he played better than the box score says, but let's just calm down just a smidge, just a little bit.
I mean, it's not putting, see, I think this is what people, I try to get people to understand in the realm of sports. I'm not talking about anything outside of sports. In the realm of sports, when you're assessing something, you're looking at it for what it is. And if there are things that you see and say, if that would have happened, then maybe, just maybe, things would have look a little bit different. That's your responsibility. You're supposed to do that. You're not supposed to overinflate something or, downplay something. And that's the way I try to approach it. Had the guys around him did what they were supposed to do, if y'all just want to keep it with numbers and keep it real, the numbers would have been a lot better. The numbers would have been great, as a matter of fact, for a rookie quarterback. Everybody would have been looking at and saying, man, this kid has something. So I'm basing it on what I saw and what should have happened, what the other guys didn't do. I know what Cam didn't do, but the things that Cam didn't do, I think can be corrected. Speeding up his game, seeing it quicker. That happens to all rookie quarterbacks. See it quicker. But that other stuff, he has no control over. They fixed that. If you want to just look at the box scores would be better. But I'm not talking about box scores. I'm talking about what I actually saw on film and what happened. He played a better game than what the box score said. I'm not trying to send him to the Hall of Fame. I'm just giving you real facts.
615-737-1025. Has the praise of Cam Ward's performance in Denver gone a little overboard? Let us know. 615-737-1025. We will take your reaction to this throughout the show. But coming up next, Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers will join us. Vanderbilt at South Carolina on Saturday, a game with some major implications in the SEC. We will talk to Stowers about that game and more coming up next. 615-737-1025. Hey, the Commodores will face South Carolina this Saturday, and pregame starts at 5 p.m. on 102.5 The Game, and kickoff is at 6:45. Vanderbilt football is brought to you by Gary Force Acura, Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse, and Smoky Mountain Tops.
Hey, time to tell you about F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. Tomorrow we will take it to the bank at 5:45. The competition is underway for the fall and we're going to have a lot of fun thanks to our partnership with F&M Bank. And what do? You heard the motto, banking made easy on purpose. No matter where you are in your financial world, they've got tools for success for you. They want to take some of the burden off. For example, the Smart Swipe debit card. They round up to the nearest dollar every time you use it. If you set up that Smart Swipe debit card through F&M Bank, every time you make a purchase, if it's $5.50, they'll round it up to $6, and they'll put that 50 cents into savings. So every time you use that card, you're going to be putting some savings away. It will build up. One of many things that they use at F&M Bank. Just find the nearest location to you. 20 locations in our listening area, on up into southern Kentucky, and over in Clarksville as well. But right in the heart of Nashville at West End Avenue, Mount Juliet, Murfreesboro, Springfield, and so forth. MyFMBank.com is where you find those locations, and you tell them that we send you here on 102.5 The Game. It's F&M Bank, member FDIC.
This Sunday, catch the Eagles versus the Chiefs for the NFL Game of the Week on ESPN 102.5 The Game at 3:25 p.m. The NFL Game of the Week is presented by Circa Sportsbook Kentucky and Massaro in 12th South. Willie Donick Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, live at a rainy First Horizon Park. It's really coming down
quick.
hard. It did.
Yeah.
It's still summer.
Feels good, though.
It'll cool off. But let's talk Vanderbilt. The Commodores have a big game this weekend at South Carolina. And to help us discuss that, we are pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers. Eli, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Doing good.
Eli, take us back to last Saturday at Virginia Tech. The offense fired on all cylinders. South Carolina.
Yeah, it was a good feeling. We started off slow and weren't the way we wanted to. We went in and do what we had. We know the team. We knew the game plan was good. We just had to go out. So it was a good feeling to go out there and do, and hopefully continue that this Saturday.
Hey Eli, we're going to put you on hold for just a second. Your phone is breaking up, but we will get back to Eli in just a second.
Hey, David, if you could just maybe tell him to call back, or let's see if we can get a better connection there. We want to hear what Eli has to say.
Yes,
exactly. Maybe the rain, could be the weather.
It could be the weather. We'll get back to Eli. But while we're waiting to hear back from Eli, let's get back to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The question I had for everybody in the first segment: has the praise of Cam Ward's performance last week gone a little overboard? Anthony on our text line says, very much so overhyped. He most definitely is not a first overall pick. We should have traded the pick because none of them look like a first overall pick to me. Anthony, I wasn't talking about overhyping Cam Ward and whether he should have been the number 1 overall pick. I'm simply talking about his performance on Sunday. The jury is still very much out. I am not going to rule whether Cam Ward was unworthy of the number 1 overall pick based on one performance. But I stand by what I said, Derek, that I thought that the praise for Cam Ward, although warranted, was a little much.
I mean, listen, because they haven't, talked much about Cam Ward nationally, it seems like, now the praise is overblown. We
Derek,
got
hold
Eli
that thought.
back.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
let's hold that thought. Let's welcome back Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Eli, I want to hear your answer to that first question. So I'm going to ask it again. I want you to take us back to last weekend at Virginia Tech. The offense was firing in all cylinders in the second half. You were describing how that felt at field level, and how can you build off that performance Saturday against South Carolina?
Yeah, like I said, it was just good to see us go out there and execute at the level that we know we can. And I think it's just what you said. We have to use that momentum and not get too high, not get too low, but continue to just go to practice every day and sharpen the axe and go out to South Carolina and do the same thing. So.
You're in year 3 as Diego Pavia's teammate. Obviously, that predates your time at Vanderbilt. Pavia entered this season surrounded by so much buzz after what he and the Commodores accomplished last season. How has he handled all of that on and off the field? And what differences have you noticed in him?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job, handling all the hype. And, he's received a lot of recognition, and I think rightfully so. He's an amazing quarterback. He's an amazing leader of the team, but, he never let that take him. If anything, it just fuels his competitive fire, and that's what makes him such a good player. So
we're talking with Vanderbilt's tight end Eli Stowers. Now, Eli, I am a big fan of yours, man. I think you're going to have a tremendous career once your college career ends in the NFL, barring any setbacks. But I'm a really huge fan of yours. But this offense seems to be, at least the last 2 games, seems to be clicking in the passing game. We know what it was last year and how you guys was developing into just being a team, period. But this year, the way Diego has distributed the football, not just to yourself, which he needs to get you the ball more times than not, but with Junior Sherrill, with Richardson, guys like that are now key components in what y'all do in the passing game. How has that developed over the offseason?
Yeah, I think last year it was kind of a learning process for all of us. You know, it was a brand new team, brand new coaching staff, and you know, the guys that came over from New Mexico State obviously knew the offense with Coach Beck, but we added some things to it. I think it was just all of last year we continued to get better, and then we returned a lot of players on our offense at the skill position, and we also got some new players that have been helping us out tremendously. So I think that's all there is to it, man. It was just a lot of chemistry that was developed through the off season, and it's good to be able to see it that it's clicking right.
Now, how has being a former quarterback, because you got into college as a you know, you played quarterback, you got in as a tight end, but you ended up playing quarterback for 2 years. How has that helped you in your development as a tight end? Yeah,
I think being a quarterback, it helps the process tremendously, just because you have to know everything on the offensive side of the quarterback. Really, from a defensive perspective too, you have to understand coverages and fronts and everything like that. And that's the biggest thing that kind of takes the longest in the learning curve, is like learning how to learn the whole offense from a different position. But when you know everything from the quarterback position, it made that transition a little easier. So from that point on, it was just you know, learning technique and continuing to learn every single day just to how to fine tune everything from the tight end position. So.
Talking to Eli Stowers, all SEC tight end for Vanderbilt. They've got the big game with South Carolina. Eli, we talked to Coach Lee every Monday, and he made an interesting statement about last year's South Carolina game. He said that was the most frustrated and angry he was after any of the games last year, that particular game. What do you remember about that game that maybe helps drive you to prepare for this Saturday?
Yeah, I think last year we just didn't come prepared as a team. You know, I think we went out there as an offense and we couldn't execute. We couldn't move the ball. You know, the defense actually did a really good job in the first half, and it was like 7-0 at halftime, and so it was a close game, and the offense just never got it moving. And then later on in the game, the defense started to break down as well. And so I think it was just the lack of mental toughness in the game last year. I think Coach Lee has made that emphasis, talking about how we kind of let the circumstances get to us. And so he's just been big on teaching us about playing 4 quarters and continuing to not get too high or get too low, but just continue to do our job and focus and execute.
Eli, I can remember Diego Pavia talking about your relationship with him, even going back to last year, but we all got to see it during the Netflix thing, how he's got his persona. He's got his thing that he puts over the team, but you've known him so long. It seems like you've got that great ability to sort of keep him grounded and knock him down and tease him a little bit when you need to. That seems to be a really special relationship. Have you always kind of seen that and say, hey, I'm here to not only be a good player for my team, but kind of guide him and harness him a little bit?
Yeah. You know, everybody knows who Diego is and how he is as a person. And, you know, I think that's what makes him good as a player is you know, that competitive fire. He holds that on the field and off the field. But, you know, also at the same time, there comes like a role model aspect to being an athlete that has a lot of recognition. And so, you know, sometimes I just try my best to be able to lead him in that right direction in terms of, you know, being a leader for our team, but also being a good role model off the field.
I thought it was notable when you just watch a guy in the natural everyday life, because we can all remember our days in college. You know, you rib each other, but it seems like he can take it as well as dish it out, right? He laughs at himself a little bit. He knows the effect he's having.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And he understands that, you know, that he has that recognition off the field, like I talked about. And so, you know, sometimes it's hard because it's just how he is. It's just in him. It's just his nature. You know, he's so competitive, and he never lets anybody, you know, change how he is. But, you know, I think he understands that he has that role off the field. And so, he's trying his best to continue to change in that way.
Eli, before we let you go, this is going to be a great test for you guys on Saturday. And what I've admired is you guys have really collectively come to believe that no matter where the game is or who you're playing, that you believe you're going to win the game. That's a tremendous asset that not all Vanderbilt teams have had, especially in football, over the long haul. So how do you think you've balanced that with also wanting to make sure you've got to stay sharp. The last thing you can afford to do is get complacent at all. And I've heard your coach talk about that a lot.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in believing that you're going to win and getting complacent about it. I think complacency comes from arrogance and kind of feeling entitled to certain things, like feeling like you're like you're better and the other team is just going to lay down for you because you're better. I think that confidence is what really drives us to believe that we're going to win. It's not arrogance, but it's confidence. Like, we just know who we are as a team. We know that we have everything that we need. And I think that's what drives us to just go out there and never let anything get to us during the game or let anything around, like the hype around the game beforehand or anything like that, get to us. We just know that we have to go out there and be who we are. So.
Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Eli, thank you so much for your time. Good luck at South Carolina on Saturday.
Yep, thank you so much.
615-737-1025. We will get to your reaction coming up next. We were in some treacherous conditions during that interview. We were getting a little wet. There was a lightning strike.
Yeah, we showed good poise.
We did.
Scary.
We did.
And Eli did a great job keeping us on track there. That was good.
Yes, Eli Stowers brought the boom, literally. You heard it in the background.
You would have never thought it was a storm.
You talk about somebody that everybody thinks very highly of. He is definitely, Pavia gets the headlines. Stowers right behind him, though, is that steady guy in the locker room. And I thought the Netflix thing kind of brought that out as well. He is such an important part. And that this is going to be a big test on Saturday night against number 11.
615-737-1025. We are live at First Horizon Park, and later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Sounds will take on Gwinnett right here at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Wisconsin takes on Alabama this Saturday at 11 a.m. in our college football game of the week on 102.5 The Game, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circus Sportsbook Kentucky. The coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Well, Derek and I are here with you. Where'd Willie go?
Willie probably had to go to the men's room.
Probably.
You know?
He'll be back.
Yes.
The storm is past. The tarp is still on the field here at First Horizon Park. They'll get the game in, I'm sure. Sounds final homestand of the season continues tonight against Gwinnett at 6:35. So if you haven't had a chance to come to a game or you want to squeeze one more in, you've got a few more days to do so. So come on out to the ballpark tonight here at First Horizon Park. I do want to get back to our initial question. 615-737-1025. Has the praise of Cam Ward's performance last week in Denver gone a little overboard? Now, I'm wondering, Derek, if perhaps I phrased this question incorrectly. Or maybe this just gives an opportunity for the anti-Cam Ward crew to dunk on the Titans' decision to draft Cam Ward. I already read Anthony's text, who said that Cam Ward is very much overhyped, and he most definitely is not a first overall pick. Let's see. There, I have to find. Oh, Ryan. Here it is. Ryan said, I did not feel encouraged by Cam Ward's performance. If anything, I felt vindicated. I didn't want us to draft him, instead going for the trade and accruing more picks. My reasoning was the team's talent is not good enough to support him, and his talent isn't good enough to support the team. I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it. I see us in the market for another franchise quarterback in the next few years and a repeating cycle of us being a bottom tier team. And look, there will be plenty of conversation about Cam Ward's performance and whether the Titans made a mistake by not taking the Giants' reported offer, but I am simply asking about last Sunday in Denver. I think that Cam Ward played better than his statistics showed. He looked poised in a tough environment. He faced a ton of pressure against a premier pass rush. So despite all of those elements, I thought he acquitted himself well, even though the completion percentage and all of that stuff did not look good. All I'm saying is that for all of the national analysts out there who are just lavishing praise all over Cam Ward, all I ask, if you're listening, is to just dial it back a bit. I'm just focused on Sunday. I'm not using Sunday as a way to say, told you so, about the Titans drafting Cam Ward.
No, and I don't think anyone, at least not me, is. I'm not trying to sit here and make any excuses for, whatever hand Cam had into not having a winning performance. I said it, Monday after the loss. Listen, there are things that Cam needs to do better, but those things with a objective eye and an eye that have seen this before, I go back and look at, the speeding up of the clock in his mind. I think that can get better. It needs to get better for his sake, but it's not like he's immune. He's the only, he's immune to something like this. This happens to just about every rookie quarterback, where the speed of the game picks up even more after training camp and after preseason. Preseason is fast, but the season is warp speed. Okay, let me repeat that again. Preseason is fast, but the season is warp speed. His eyes haven't caught up just yet. I'm banking on that happening. That's why I say I'm looking at him objectively and saying, well, are there things that are out of the ordinary that I'm seeing that I haven't seen from young quarterbacks? No, it's not. And again, people, if you just watch the tape, you will get what I'm saying. He's not doing anything that is not, ordinary of a first pick in the draft. Hell, a second or third pick in the draft if they're a quarterback. The speed of the game, those are things that I think he can get better at. Holding on to the ball a little bit too long, those are things I think he can get better at, because I think the offensive coordinator can help him at that. Everything else, he made big league throws. He put balls in tight spaces. He read the defense the way he was supposed to read it. And the encouraging part is, we talked about how vicious and how strong this defense was coming into the game. And for a guy to not throw any turnover worthy or interception worthy plays. Didn't have not one. If you want to count the last one as a turnover worthy play, then okay. But during the course of the game, for damn near 4 quarters, 99.9% of the game, he did not throw a turnover worthy pass. Y'all should be happy about that. I'm not saying it's going to happen the next game, but the way y'all talked about it and the way I talked about that Denver defense as if they were the 85 Bears, he should have peed down his pants. But he didn't. He stood up strong. Can he play better? Absolutely. But when those people around you that are more experienced, that are tasked with helping you, fail the first game of the season, I'm not talking about them failing the whole season. I'm saying they failed you the first game of the season. No quarterback could have operated under that situation. None. Manning, nobody. Andrew Luck, any quarterback you want to throw in there. What happened last Sunday? Not many quarterbacks would have been able to overcome what the people around him didn't do for him.
Quickly, one texter says, as someone who was opposed to the drafting of Cam Ward, there's no way any of these Monday morning and kept his team in the fight. He had an expected performance for a rookie. I think that is an appropriate review of what we saw on Sunday.
There's only so much we can learn from one game, but
Exactly.
I will say this. As the guy, I was the guy. Just remember how bad the Giants look like they're going to be. We can't tell after 1 week, but the Giants in that division look like they're going to struggle. And the Titans could have had the Giants' first 2 picks.
The Giants are going to win 6 or 7 games. They're going to win 7 games. You know why? Because they're going to put Jackson Dart in the game, and they're going to start winning. You know why they're going to put Jackson Dart in the game? Because Malik Neighbors this past game was highly disappointing. So they're going to make sure they keep their superstar wide receiver happy. So they're going to throw that rookie in there maybe week 3, if not week 4.
But that could have been a top 10 pick.
There will be plenty of time for this.
Pick. I just am saying.
Okay, we know you're always just saying. 615-737-1025. We will take your reaction to our question. Has the praise of Cam Ward's performance in week 1 at Denver gone a little overboard? We will continue to take your reaction. But coming up next, Mitch Light of The Athletic will join us to preview the slate of college football matchups this coming weekend. We talked a lot about Georgia and Tennessee yesterday. Of course, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. We'll get into the week that will be, the weekend that will be in college football with Mitch Light. That's coming up next, 615-737-1025. Speaking of college football, this Saturday, the MTSU Blue Raiders will take on Nevada at 4 p.m. Catch all of the action on Totally Hits 93.3, with coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at TotallyHitsNashville.com.
Derek Mason here. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you in an event, or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace Finnegan and Donick 1025 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, and David Janes here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by the Athletics' Mitch Light, as he joins us every Thursday to preview the upcoming weekend in college football. And Mitch, two big games in our state this weekend. Well, one's in our state, the other one's in South Carolina, but it involves a team in our state. So let's start with Georgia at Tennessee. The big game of the week, College Game Day, will be there. By the way, Candace Parker, the guest picker for Tennessee at College Game Day tomorrow. On Saturday.
Have they named who's going to kick the field goal for the big thing?
I have not seen that yet. We'll have to consult with Pat McAfee. He'll let us know.
My son has a lot of high school friends who attend the University of Tennessee. They could be candidates to kick the field goal.
Now, Mitch, you tell me. I feel like the success rate on those kicks is incredibly high. Is that true? It feels that way.
Do they need to move them back?
Better. So this year, we are 2 for 2 and like right down the middle. Nothing. So I think there's a lot of young dudes out there, college dudes, who are practicing field goals.
That could be. That could be.
Yeah,
but
and I guess maybe it's the fear of failure. I mean, there's nothing worse than just shanking one on national TV, too. So,
especially with so much money on the line.
Yeah, success rate has improved.
Okay, so let's talk Georgia and Tennessee. The Vols could not have asked for much more from Joey Aguilar at quarterback in their 2 wins against Syracuse and East Tennessee State. But the task gets that much more difficult this weekend against Georgia's defense. How do you anticipate Aguilar in this matchup? What must he and Josh Heupel do to finally get the Volunteers over the hump and beat the Bulldogs for the first time in nearly 10 years?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I know you asked the question, but they have I was surprised. I knew they had the winning streak. I didn't realize that they'd all been by 14 points or more in 4 of the last 5 when both teams were ranked, too. So Georgia's handled some good Tennessee teams and had a lot of success against that offense there. It's going to be more pressure on Joey Aguilar than he's ever faced in college. I mean, I know App State, they played some P4 teams, but Georgia has had basically all offseason to prepare for this offense with 2 home games against Marshall and Austin Peay. They've been pointing to this game there, so they've got to take care of the ball. I mean, that goes without saying, but you cannot give this Georgia offense, which quite frankly hasn't looked good so far, the short fields. They've got to just, again, take advantage of the opportunities they get if they can force a turnover. But I think the nation is watching. We've all seen, there's articles this week nationally about Joey Aguilar in Tennessee, who thinks they won the trade and he's been great and all that. But so the nation will be watching. How can this offense do against the elite defense? Because for all of Georgia's problems, maybe offensively or problems relatively, they still have elite talent on defense.
Mitch, I was incredibly impressed last season, not just that Vanderbilt beat Alabama, but the following week, Vanderbilt went on the road to Kentucky.
Yep.
They were the talk of college football leading into that game against the Wildcats. The Commodores were ripe for a letdown, and they went to Lexington and they won a big game. So that gives me confidence that after Vanderbilt just crushed Virginia Tech in the second half last weekend in Blacksburg, that they can go to South Carolina and pull off an upset. I'm wondering if you had to gauge the upset potential for Vanderbilt at South Carolina, where would you put it?
Well, first of all, as an astute observation, I said last year, because that real quick, Vanderbilt didn't shy away from the upset, from the talk. Diego Pavia was on every network. Clark Lee was all over the place. Like a lot of coaches would kind of say, we've got to focus on Kentucky. We're not doing media. They embraced it. And then the fact that they still went out and played well against Kentucky, that kind of showed maybe culture and all that stuff that Clark Lee has been building. So to your point, I think there's a good chance. It's dangerous at this time of year or any time to do comparative scores. But if you look how Vanderbilt played against Virginia Tech on the road versus how South Carolina did, you think Vanderbilt might have the better team. South Carolina struggled on offense. They had a special teams touchdown. They didn't pull away until late. So, it's another difficult road environment. Kind of to your point, I think Vanderbilt will be ready to play. I think they won't, be awed by the environment. Now, whether they're good enough to win, that's another thing. But I think this program, this team has shown you enough that they will be ready to play and it won't cave under the circumstances.
Now, Mitch, is this a much win for DeBoer and in Alabama? Because out of the last 5 games dating back to last year, they're 3-2, and they lost to Florida State, Michigan, and Ohio State. They beat Auburn in a tough game, and they blew out the Warhawks of Monroe, UNL Monroe. But this game here, should they win? They're playing in Tuscaloosa, yes. But is this a must-win for DeBoer and his coaching staff?
With the caveat that, yeah, they could lose this game and then go on a hot streak and everyone forget, but not real. Yeah, I'm stammering my way through this there. Yes, it's a must-win because Wisconsin's not very good. Their starting quarterback, Billy Edwards, is out, not playing again. Danny O'Neal, a one-time Colorado commitment under Deion Sanders, who transferred to San Diego State, is going to be the quarterback. They struggled on offense in the first game. They struggled on offense in the first half against MTSU last week. So Alabama is a much better team. They took care of business, like you said last week. With the SEC slate starting soon, they've got to take care of business. They've got to be mature about it. It shows that they've moved on from that Florida State debacle. So, is DeBoer, would he get fired mid-season? No, but if they lose this game, it could be tough to see him coming back from this.
Now, what do you make of the LSU and Florida game? Florida's coming off a horrible loss a couple weeks ago. LSU seems to be on the rise with Nussmeier as their quarterback. But is this a game for Florida's coach where it's a must-win for him?
I wouldn't say that because they've got such a difficult schedule and they'll have opportunities to pick off some big wins later like they did last year. But obviously it's important. We all know Billy Napier's the ebbs and flows of his tenure. The thing that concerns me about Florida, you can talk about the spitting and the undiscipline and the penalties, but DJ Lagway in that offense did not really play well last week. They had 1 touchdown on a drive of 30 yards after a turnover. So that's what concerns me. Like I know South Florida is a good team, but you can only score 1 offensive touchdown at home against South Florida. What leads you to believe you can go on the road at LSU and put up enough points? Because we know LSU is going to score. So Florida's a difficult team to figure out because, again, they did a good job last year staying together and played well later in the year. But I don't really see a lot of scenarios where Florida wins this game.
Mitch Light is one of the college football editors for The Athletic. And, Mitch, let me bounce back to that Georgia-Tennessee matchup. You alluded to it before. There was a really good article written by, I think it was Seth Emerson from your staff, talking about Georgia and Gunnar Stockton specifically, where in these first 2 games, they haven't really looked good. They haven't proven that they could attack down the field with the passing game. We know he can run. We know he's pretty gutty. We know they can play defense. But what about how that matchup looks against Tennessee?
Yeah, I think the longest pass play last week was 19 yards against Austin Peay. Now, they've been banged up on the offensive line. I think the latest I saw, they were hoping to get right tackle Ernest Green and right guard Warren Gaston back, which obviously, if you have, I don't care who you are, but if you're out 2 starters in your offensive line, that's going to set you back, especially earlier in the year. I'm really interested to see. They upgraded in the portal in the offseason at wide receiver. Remember last year the team was kind of plagued with drops. Zechariah Branch is a former 5-star who transferred from USC, who's always been like a great athlete, good return guy, but had never really blossomed as a wide receiver. Well, he's leading the team, only 2 games, 6 catches, 112 yards. He's a big play guy to watch. But what I'm looking for out of Gunnar Stockton, which I always look for in quarterbacks, is a guy like him, he's athletic, but on 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, what does the offensive staff trust him to do? Do they trust him to drop back and make the reads and make the big play, or do they do a quarterback draw and stay real conservative? So that's what I'll be watching in this game. I know he's a veteran. He's been in the offense. He's played some. But how much does this staff trust him? And if they do and he plays well, that's obviously a great sign for Georgia going forward.
We just had a really good conversation with Eli Stowers, and he was talking about the frustration of last year, especially on offense. He felt like the defense was keeping them in the game, but the offense really didn't do their job. I'm curious up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Vanderbilt appears that there are signs that what they have done to upgrade the offensive line and the defensive line looks like it's quite a bit better than it was last year. What about that matchup at South Carolina?
Yeah, the offensive line obviously was a veteran group last year. They lost several guys, and they went to the portal, and they got several more. You know, it's an old group, 4th, 5th, 6th-year guys. Obviously they played very well against Virginia Tech. The concern coming off the Charleston Southern game was, remember, at the end of the first half, they had actually trouble blocking Charleston Southern on some pass protection. They had 2 or 3 holding penalties. There might have been a hold or 2 last week, but that really wasn't a problem. They were obviously dominant in the ground game there. South Carolina, you know, last year dominated this game in the line of scrimmage. They were the best team Vanderbilt played in the line of scrimmage. Vanderbilt couldn't block them. Dylan Stewart is back. He's one of the best players in the country, but they lost other guys on that defensive line there. So that's the key. Can Vanderbilt block, move the pile, which they couldn't do last year against South Carolina, and run the ball, which obviously opens up the play action and opens up some option game and all that stuff. So that's the part of the offensive line. Defensive line, it's more like they just added a lot of bodies. They have a lot of depth. I don't know if they've got any real standouts on the defensive line, but they added several guys, even after in the spring portal, 5th, 4th, and 5th-year guys, so they can rotate a lot and keep guys fresh. I think you saw that at Virginia Tech. I think they wore them out in the second half. They got at, you know, once they knew Kyron Jones had to throw the ball, they just teed off on him and had no trouble getting through that Virginia Tech offensive line.
Why do you think? Because it scares the heck out of me, because we saw what Lenore Sellers did down the stretch last year. He just went to a whole new level, and there's a lot of Heisman talk, deservedly so, but so far that they haven't really clicked offensively. What do you think has been the issue so far?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I don't know how much I buy into like catch people off guard last year. I mean, coaches are smart. They watch a ton of film. So I don't know if that's it. You know, I watched the Virginia Tech game, and I thought Virginia Tech was pretty good up front defensively and got after them. There's a lot of people who watch more film and understand the sport better than I do, who say Sellers is still reluctant to throw the ball over the middle. You know, that's kind of what people saw on film from him last year. So maybe defenses are taking that away or forcing him to do things that he's not comfortable with, making it more of an emphasis on tackling him, which sounds simple, but that's Vanderbilt struggled with that last year there. So, you know, they got off to a slow start last year. Like the first game, I think it's UAB. They only scored like 14 points and they took off there. So it's a fair point. They have not looked great offensively, but it's also still very early.
I want to ask you about the Notre Dame-Texas A&M matchup. Notre Dame, of course, they lost that first game, tight one at Miami. So there'll be some urgency, of course. And Texas A&M has now got, of course, a kid out of Nashville, and Marcel Reed, who looked pretty good. He got loose last week, put up good numbers against Utah State. It was a really good game last year down in Texas. What do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, on paper, it's kind of a troubling matchup in some degree for Texas A&M because I didn't watch either of the first 2 games against UTSA and Utah State. I watched a few plays at Utah State, but they have really struggled against the run. They've given up a lot of rushing yards. If you look at Notre Dame, with those 2 tailbacks, especially Jeremiah Love, that's what they do well. Now, they didn't run the ball enough. Notre Dame fans will tell you in that Miami game, I would expect them to do that. I think C.J. Carr, after his week 1 at Miami, will be a lot more comfortable in his second game at home. So I think the matchups, from my angle, favor Notre Dame. I think they're the better team. I think they win at home. You know, Marcel Reed, I don't know if it was his first start, but he won a game at Florida last year. So he has played well on the road. I don't think that will be an issue. I think Notre Dame right now the better team.
Mitch Light of The Athletic has been our guest on D-Mace, Ringen, and Donick, helping us preview the weekend ahead in college football. Mitch, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
All right, take care, guys.
Mitch Light on the program. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we told you at the top of the show that J.C. Latham will not play Sunday against the L.A. Rams. He has ruled himself out with a hip injury. The injury report has not been unveiled. There is another key player whose status is in question, and we will discuss that coming up next. Also, if you want to win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at the First Bank Amphitheater Wednesday, October 1st, be listening at the end of the upcoming segment. I will give you the cue to call at 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at the First Bank Amphitheater on Wednesday, October 1st. 615-737-1025. Headed to the Titans game this Sunday? be sure to stop by John Bon Jovi's before the Titans take on the Rams for the 102.5 The Game pregame show with Big Joe Dubin, Chris Sanders, and our very own Derek Mason from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. The pregame show is brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Old National Bank, Circa Sportsbook Kentucky, and Tennessee Brew Works. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at First Horizon Park. Sounds and Stripers tonight. Last homestand of the season. So if you haven't been to a game yet this season, you want to squeeze one more in before the Sounds end the season. You've got a couple of days left. Come on out to the ballpark. First pitch tonight is at 6:35. As you just heard Papa Roach, at the end of this segment, I will give you a cue to call, 615-737-1025, and you can win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at the First Bank Amphitheater on Wednesday, October 1st. So, as we mentioned off the top of the show, and I'll mention it again, J.C. Latham is out with a hip injury for Sunday's matchup against the L.A. Rams. But there is another player who, if I had to guess, will also not be playing on Sunday against the LA Rams, and that is T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat did not practice yesterday or today. He was listed on the injury report with an ankle injury. I just looked it up. Jim Wyatt tweeted the injury report yesterday at 6:23 p.m. So shortly after our show went off the air. So I'm guessing we will not have the injury report before we get off the air at 6 o'clock. But the fact that he did not practice 2 days in a row with an ankle injury suggests to me he's not going to play.
I think we'll know more tomorrow. I still would hold out a little hope. I don't know how bad the ankle is. However, even if he plays, I think we're still going to only get a percentage of what he really can be, because he's still catching up from the other two ailments. This is the third thing that's happened to him.
He had an abdominal injury. He had his tonsils taken out, and now he is dealing with an ankle injury. He barely participated in training camp and the preseason. He played 40.8% of the snaps in Denver. He had 2 tackles. He stuffed Bo Nix on a 4th and 1 late in the fourth quarter. That is what T'Vondre Sweat is all about. But I'm wondering how concerned we should be about T'Vondre Sweat's health moving forward. As Willie said, he's been dealing with multiple ailments since the start of training camp. Did not play much in Denver. I'm going to say he's not going to play on Sunday. Willie is still going to hold out hope that he will.
I've seen people not practice.
Right. Dan Moore had an ankle injury last week, did not practice once, and then he played. But T'Vondre Sweat has not practiced each of the past 2 days with an ankle injury. So, Derek, how concerned are you? How concerned should we be about the health of T'Vondre Sweat?
I'm not as concerned as I am about what's going on with J.C. Latham. I'm more concerned about J.C. Latham and his potential of missing more than one game than T'Vondre Sweat. I think eventually they haven't ruled him out, so that's a good thing. They want to see if he can, if he continues to move around. And I'm sure he's still getting some type of conditioning, albeit it may be sort of, one that maybe a pool or some type of, they have these treadmills where, you run, but you're doing it minus your body weight, but you're still getting the conditioning. It's taking a lot of the body weight, the pounding off of you. So maybe he's doing some conditioning that way. But until they say he's out, then I do hope that, and I hate to say it, I hate to put it this way, on the pitch count, because I don't want the same thing that happened last week to happen this week, where one guy
but he was basically on a pitch count last week.
Yeah, he was on a pitch count last week. And I think this is just, in addition to him not practicing a lot and not playing during the preseason, him dealing with, what did he have? Tonsils.
Tonsillitis. He had his
tonsil
removed. He had an ab injury.
So
he has an ankle injury.
He's had some injuries, and for a big fella like that, man, anytime it takes you away from the field and it takes you away from conditioning, it's not good. But I do hope that they, find some way where he can play and be productive. I only want him to play if he can be productive in the time that he plays. If he can't be productive, there's no sense of throwing him out there.
And they have not offered any detail, on his
which
ankle.
Makes me think he will play.
Well, it maybe, but Adam, you could be dead on right. You could be right that if it's a high ankle sprain, we know that's multiple weeks. That's not just this week. So there's a lot of range of an ankle issue, right? And as you said, Derek, a big guy like that, leverage on the ankle is huge. I'm just really concerned that this stuff he's going to be chasing this stuff all year, and he hasn't. This sets him back again. He's trying to catch up from basically missing all of training camp, and that is not an easy thing to do.
And I mentioned this, I believe it was last week, but I'll mention it again. I don't have the numbers for Sunday, but he was incredibly impactful last season when he was on the field in terms of helping the Titans' run defense. The NFL said that the Titans' run defense held opponents to 4.2 yards per carry when T'Vondre Sweat was on the field, which would have been the 8th fewest in the NFL. Without Sweat, those numbers jumped to 5.3 yards per carry, worst in the NFL. So T'Vondre Sweat, he did not record sacks, but when it came to stuffing the run, he did what he needed to do.
From a team that prides themselves on what? Stopping the run. That's where it starts first.
Right.
And if you're your best run stopper outside of Jeffrey Simmons, and I think because of the big body and his ability to move, he may be better as a run stopper than Jeffrey Simmons is. And if he's not in the game, you are going to be, not that good at that particular thing.
He also, I think we all were pleasantly surprised how often he was on the field, even on passing downs. And he, for a guy his size, he's not the ideal pass rusher. It's not the best thing. He's never going to be, known as a pass rusher. But the fact that they had him in that high of percentage of the plays put him ahead of what I thought he would be last year.
It was roughly 2/3, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and
of the snaps.
So he appears to be at his best, somebody who's not just a situational run-stopping specialist, right? I think he can be a 3-down guy if he can continue to develop. But that's the problem with what's going on with him now. He's had some setbacks here. The good thing is, I do think I'm buying into what Denard Wilson is saying, that they have improved their depth on that part of the front. They've added a couple other guys. Joseph Day's a pretty good player. Shai Tuttle is now in the mix. They've got a couple other guys that are useful. So hopefully they can get by until Meatloaf gets back up to speed.
And another thing to note, I don't know what's going on with all of these ankle injuries, but 3 of the Rams' starting offensive linemen did not practice yesterday with ankle injuries. Right tackle Rob Havenstein, right guard Kevin Dotson, and left guard Steve Avila. All 3 did not practice yesterday with ankle injuries. And we don't know what the Rams injury report is yet. But that would be a prime opportunity. Imagine if T'Vondre Sweat can play. And we know that Jeffrey Simmons is available. And Simmons had a great game, minus the penalty at the end. But he had a great game in terms of affecting the quarterback, created multiple turnovers off of his pressures. I'm just imagining Sweat and Simmons against a patchwork, potentially, Rams offensive line. Again, 3 of their starting offensive linemen for the Rams did not practice yesterday. All of them are dealing with ankle injuries. We'll see if they practice today when that injury report comes out in a couple of hours. But what could have been a great matchup for the Titans, assuming those 3 linemen weren't available, not having Sweat potentially takes the bite out of that.
I'm with D-Mace, and I'm a little more worried about not having Latham than not having Sweat on Sunday.
That's fair.
But I am curious, D-Mace, if the Titans defense can play well enough, especially aided by improved special teams, where they can maybe stay in games. They're a 5.5-point underdog, which is a pretty big number for a home dog. But can they, week in and week out, stay in games with defense and special teams better than last year? I'm curious about that. Where that's how you take a little pressure off of Cam Ward.
But yes, but the unfortunate part about it is that, as we all know, as the season goes, injuries occur. And you're talking about a team that doesn't have depth already. Players are going to get hurt. And if you don't have a complete team, meaning a good offense, good defense, and some guys behind them, if you're relying so heavy on one side of the ball, what happens when injuries occur? Because injuries, if you say if a defensive player goes down, a few of them, well, that affects not only your defense, but it affects your special teams as well. You got a few offensive players goes down. Maybe they're not starters, but they're because they play special teams as well. So to me, the concern is yes, we can lean on the defense and special teams because I've seen teams do that before. But what happens when those injuries start to occur? And now that thing that you leaned on so heavy becomes weak. You know, they need to get the offense up to speed. And how do you do that? The offensive line got to block better. And are they, with JC being out, if I'm betting, no, it's not going to look better than what it did last week, knowing that JC's out and Cushionberry's still working his way through it. So that's when everybody else has to chip in and do the theme of this week should be do your job. Just do the job that we asked you to do. That should be the theme of the week, because if you do your job and the quarterback is doing his, we're going to be all right. But if the quarterback is doing his and you ain't doing yours, or the offensive line is doing his and quarterback, you're not reading it right, or the receivers not doing their job, offensive line, you ain't blocking, we ain't gonna have consistent good plays. The theme should be this week: do your job, and we'll be okay.
Isn't that trademarked by the New England Patriots?
Well, Belichick tried
University of North
it.
Carolina,
Yeah.
isn't it? Didn't they get the trade? Oh,
Do
they
your
did.
job.
Okay.
Titans version.
Okay. That is fair. My concern with Sweat, I'll echo what Willie said earlier. Just the litany of ailments that
Why didn't you ring the bell?
I need a travel bell.
Travel the
I
bell.
need a travel bell. It needs a little case and everything like that. Anyway, the injuries, the ailments that Tavondre Sweat has dealt with already since the beginning of training camp: an ab injury, a tonsillectomy, now an ankle injury, and we don't know what kind of ankle injury. It could be just a sprained ankle. It could be a high ankle sprain. When you're a big boy like Tavondre Sweat, I can only imagine the weight and the pressure that puts on your ankles. I agree with you, Willie, that just I'm concerned that Sweat is going to be, to borrow a term that Peter Laviolette used to use all the time, he's going to be trying to catch a moving train all season long. And I think that will negatively affect the Titans, depending on what happens here.
I could not agree more. That is a term that's thrown out in hockey a lot, and I think I've seen a lot of players through the years. You can see it in their game. I've used in baseball the example of another Nashvilleian, Mookie Betts. He got a really weird illness. He lost like 25 pounds, and it's taken him till now. If you watch, he's now playing like Mookie Betts, but it took him 4 months to really catch up. He was hitting .230, which is so far from his standard. But you could see these types of things sometimes. When you lose a lot of weight, you're trying to get it back. You're also trying to get in playing shape, and you've got a couple other things you're dealing with. That's a lot on somebody's plate.
Yeah,
that's a lot of meatloaf on the plate.
That is a hefty portion of meatloaf. A hefty portion of meatloaf. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's ask this question, because we seem to be in a bit of a disagreement here. Whose injury are you more concerned about? J.C. Latham's hip or Tavondre Sweat's ankle? 615-737-1025. We're talking long-term over the course of the season, not necessarily Sunday against the Rams. Latham out, no word on Sweat. Whose injury are you more concerned about? Latham's hip or Sweat's ankle? 615-737-1025. Jackson on our text line says, the last time Papa Roach had a hit song, D-Mace was returning a free kick after a safety for a touchdown against the Jags in the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
That could be true. But you can still win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach on October 1st at First Bank Amphitheater by being caller number 3 right now at 615-737-1025. If you want to see Papa Roach in a few weeks, October 1st, First Bank Amphitheater, caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal. You shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But check this out, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands, that's the key word, understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with training nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at First Horizon Park. The sun is shining. The tarp will be off the field shortly. So if you're looking for something to do tonight, the Sounds, their final homestand of the season, continues tonight against Gwinnett. First pitch at 6:35. One texter, Justin from Greenbrier, says, speaking of meatloaf, don't miss your chance to support Chase McCabe and Jake Lyman at the cow milking competition at the Nashville Fairgrounds this evening.
What?
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Oh, okay.
Who would you put your money on in a cow milking contest? Chase McCabe or Jake Lyman?
You know, Jake Lyman is he's full of surprises.
Yeah.
He's the youngster. He's a little bit of the dark horse. We don't know. But I mean,
I'm taking Jake.
I think I got to go Jake.
I'm taking Jake.
Look, okay, Chase, if you're listening.
Chase is the native to the land in this area. That should give him a leg up.
But Chase ain't been milking no cow. He ain't milked no cow. I don't think Jake has either, but I know Chase, he ain't milking no cow, man. Chase ain't milking no cow.
That's not a euphemism for something, is it?
No, I'm just saying, I can't see Chase milking a cow.
Okay.
I just can't
see. Well, I'm sure we'll
his-
have video footage of this somewhere.
His track record
Yeah.
in some of these exhibitions in the past, like curling,
Exactly.
shooting 3-pointers.
Yes.
At least with this, though, it doesn't require athletic ability. If we're being
But
so
Coordination,
But
it may
I don't
take
know.
coordination.
Some
though.
dexterity,
You know
perhaps.
what? Fair enough.
I feel like there might be some, some talent that
Yeah,
is
you gotta
necessary.
bend.
You got to bring
Yeah,
something
you
to the
gotta,
table.
you gotta bring a little strength. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Technique.
well, we will.
I'm talking about old school milking cows. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the new way where you put the machine under
Yeah,
there
yeah,
and all
no,
that
no,
stuff.
we're talking about
We're
old
talking about
that's
old
chased
school.
by a mile if it's the new way.
Oh man. Well, I am participating in some sort of in between inning competition tonight at the Sounds game. So hopefully it won't be cow milking. Hopefully it'll be something.
Is it a potato sack race? Probably.
Oh my
Possibly?
goodness. If you're looking to watch me fall flat in my face in front of thousands of people, that is, I can't think of a better way to get people to come to
Is it
First
the game
Rising
where you
Park.
have to run, 90 feet and put the uniform on and then come back and run the 90 feet in the uniform?
I'm hoping it's like a math test or a spelling bee or something.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be action. It's going to involve some.
He's scaring you.
I'm a little nervous now. Find out later.
Do you think you could beat the freeze? Remember in
Oh no,
in Atlanta where
Yeah.
they have
Oh,
the
yeah.
sprinter out
Hell
there, the
no.
freeze?
No,
That's one of my favorite ones.
I could.
You don't think you could hold off the freeze?
No, no.
Because you get what, a 50-yard? You get like a
you get a big
50
head
meter.
start.
Yeah, you get a big head
Oh,
start, man.
I
So so listen.
You need to
if the
believe in
free-
yourself, Adam.
Hold on. If the freeze started at home plate and you were, say, right field, right
Okay.
corner field, you couldn't beat the freeze all the way around.
I think I would be huffing and puffing.
Hey, Willie, Adam will fall right in midfield, like in the middle, right there.
And he wouldn't be the
fall.
first.
Okay.
Yeah, he
So
wouldn't be the
A
first.
lot of people have gone down
Okay.
against the freeze. Not just lost the race, but gone down.
Before we get back on track, I just have to read this text from Joey from Bellevue. He says, "I'm taking Chase. He keeps saying he doesn't have a girlfriend. LOL." All right,
All right, move on.
let's move on.
Next topic.
Next topic.
Oh,
All right. So
man.
we're talking Titans injuries. J.C. Latham has a hip injury that will prevent him from playing on Sunday against the Rams. Devondre Sweat has an ankle injury that prevented him from practicing each of the past 2 days. No word on Sweat's status for the Rams game, but I wanted to know from all of you which injury concerns you more, and it's a landslide. Every vote for J.C. Latham, and I'm not surprised by that. And to be clear, by talking about my concern for Devondre Sweat, I'm not minimizing J.C. Latham's injury. I agree with all of you. I think that is much more important. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Sweat as well, because most of the attention, injury-wise, is on J.C. Latham. One texter says, Latham is the easy answer when you have uh-oh as his backup. It's actually Udo or uh-oh or ruh-roh, depending on the situation. It's going to make Ward's life very, very hard if Latham is out for an extended time. Matt from Camden also says Latham because the Titans' offensive line depth is not great, and you don't want to get Cam Ward killed every week. One texter, Willie, says, a hip on a massive human is tough.
We don't know the details about the hip, but what concerns me is he tried to play, and there was the one play. I think it was the third down.
He got
Right
off the
before
line.
the half.
He got off the line.
He looked like he couldn't move
move,
at
yeah.
all. He was fighting it, and I don't think it was getting worse as the game went along. And obviously, he didn't finish the game. So this has been out there, and that's the kind of thing. If it lingers, you need J.C. Latham to be himself. Like battling through a hip injury, that's not good.
No.
Let's see.
It's one thing to throw that, put the club on. You get a broken finger
Yeah.
or something for a lineman. You put all that tape around you. Look like this big ball. But your hips, your knees, your ankles, those are hips especially for
tough.
leverage. It's a leverage game.
Before Joey made an inappropriate comment that I read aloud, he said Latham's hip for sure. That hurts the team more since the depth players at that position shouldn't be on the field. The O-line can't catch a break. And he told reporters he's going to prepare this week the same way he would if he were playing, in terms of mental reps and watching film and eating right and all of those things. And I agree with what Derek said earlier on Latham, that better manage it now, keep him out of the lineup as a precaution so that it doesn't get worse over the course of the season. But this is a situation that if Latham is out for an extended period of time, the Titans offensive line, which, look, the Titans offensive line had a rough go of it on Sunday. Cam Ward was under pressure quite a bit. I believe he was under pressure, depending on which statistical service you use, may have been under pressure more than any other quarterback in the NFL in week 1. Sacked 6 times. I believe 2 of those sacks were credited to the offensive line by Pro Football Focus. So I sort of with the same thing we were talking about with Cam Ward and how people are perceiving his debut. I'm trying to place the offensive line's performance in the proper context. Same situation, tough environment, ferocious pass rush. So I think the offensive line definitely struggled, but considering the circumstances, I may, for lack of a better phrase, give him a pass in week 1. But Latham's injury status is worth monitoring for sure.
Of course, because, just like your left tackle, your right tackle is a key position on a team. And for the Titans, with a team that is dealing with not much depth, you got to try to keep as many people healthy on your offensive line as you possibly can. And right off the bat, they're dealing with, essentially 2 injuries, because you're dealing with Cushionberry's injury from last year. He's still managing it. And he's not 100% or fully ready to go. And now you got to deal with J.C. Latham at right tackle, albeit with the new right guard learning the offense in this system under this head coach. So, the one place they didn't need an injury was the offensive line. And that's the first place they occur an injury that's going to be detrimental. Now you look out there and say, well, what are some free agent, tackles that are out there? You look, not many that I see right now.
McCabe,
Raven Clark, Chris
Dubin,
Hubbard, Connor Galvin. And you talk about these are guys with, 2 of them got over
Rex Road.
5 years of experience, and the other 1
There's
year.
nobody. There's nobody ever
yeah, you're right.
lets
There's
a
nobody,
tackle go.
there's nobody out there that the Titans can. Now, if this continues to be, either 1 or 2 things are going to happen. Aside from J.C. Latham getting healthy, either the young kid, gets on that treadmill, gets on that bike, and he starts to, pedal real fast and get up to speed, or they're going to have to scour, other teams to try to get, and they may have to give up a late round pick to try to get a tackle that can come in here and play. Give up a 6th, 7th round pick to get a guy with some experience. Because right now,
that worked so well for them in the past.
Latham, but this is where they're at.
Yeah.
This is where they're at.
They have the number 1. They do have the
exactly.
number 1 waiver pickup. But I just
so if he's going to be through a
himself.
trade, or the young guy who they threw in there last week, he's going to get back.
I just don't think at this point anybody's going to waive a legit tackle.
That's why I said it has to be through a trade.
They may have to, and this is the dilemma when you're trying to build a roster. You need those draft picks.
Yeah. But who's going to be dumb enough to give up a tackle?
yeah. Nobody's going to trade you a tackle.
Because they could be in that same situation in 2 weeks.
This is how you
end up. Need a tackle.
This is how you end up with the Dennis Dailies of the world. Whenever I'm
Diller's still out there, is he?
Can you imagine?
That's like saying Freddy Krueger. Ooh, no, Dennis Dillard. No, please.
Actually, Andre Dillard was placed on season-ending injured reserve about a month ago.
Well, they can't
cross him off the list.
Yeah, cross him off the list.
Yeah, we're not celebrating that he's injured.
No, we're not.
I'm
just saying.
Don't want him here anymore.
He wasn't a good player for the Titans.
Oh.
Andre Dillard, not Dennis Dillard. I was thinking
Dennis Daly,
Kelly.
Dennis Kelly, Dennis Daly,
Yeah.
Andre Dillard,
Yes.
Nicholas Petit Frere, Jalen Duncan. The list goes on and on.
No, Dennis Kelly. Kelly was pretty good.
Yeah, he was
a good.
He
was a good swing tackle for
that
him.
that was a solid trade.
Exactly.
That was an excellent trade.
That was a
Dorial
good
Green
trade.
backup for Dennis Kelly.
I was like, why would you give up on a guy? Maybe there's still a chance that, and that ended up being an excellent trade.
Yes, it did.
for Robinson.
Jared from Spring Hill on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, said, should we just get behind the idea of benching Cam Ward? Since he has no weapons, Latham may be out a while. If he's the most important person and Callahan can't coach him up, meaning Ward is the most important person, why waste it and take the risk of hurting Ward too?
Look, let's check back in a few weeks because it can. Marcus Mariota's rookie year, if I remember correctly,
started off great.
He had his moments, but by the end of the year they could not field a real offensive line, And I can remember Zach Mettenberger starting some games. Woo, he got destroyed.
So these may be the growing pains that a young quarterback have to go through. But man, oh man, haven't they had enough growing pains? You know,
It
from
is
the
all
other
about. It's
quarterbacks?
really all about survival for Cam Ward. It's the Troy Aikman, the Peyton Manning. When you are the first overall pick and you enter in as the opening day starter for the last place team in the league, it's just these pitfalls are all over the place, and it's hard to avoid them. And here we are in week 2; they're already dealing with something.
That's why I believe that the hardest group outside of the quarterback, but the hardest group to develop, and retain is the offensive line, because even if you draft them in the first round, a lot of those guys still take time, and then you gotta link them to 2 or 3 guys that may have already been there, or 2 guys that have been there, and another guy has to come in from somewhere else and learn the system. So it's going to take a good year and a half for that offensive line, that chain, to really link together. That's what people don't understand. Like, it's not 1 game, it's not 2 games, it's not 5 games. It takes offensive line like seasons to really get to where they know each one another. That's why when I look back at the years where the Titans were at their prime at running, they had offensive lines that had been together, that had been through the battles together, that understood one another. It was almost like we didn't even have to talk to communicate. You look at when Chris Johnson rushed for his 2,000 yards. That offensive line had been together. It's going to take for those guys to be together for a minute for you to start truly reaping the rewards of how good an offensive line can be. And unfortunate, the Titans they've already started off on the wrong foot with their right tackle getting hurt, and then obviously Cushenberry still working his way through the injury he had last year.
615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction to J.C. Latham's hip injury. He is out Sunday against the L.A. Rams. Still no word on the status of T'Vondre Sweat for Sunday. He did not practice yesterday, listed with an ankle injury. No injury report yet. Probably won't get it before the end of the show. We'll also take your thoughts on Cam Ward's performance last week and if the praise for Ward's performance has gone a little overboard. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, Cam Ward will make his official Nissan Stadium debut on Sunday. And we are all quite curious what the crowd will be like at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. So we'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace Fingan and Donick 1025 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you live at First Horizon Park. They are preparing as we speak to pull the tarp off the infield. It did storm briefly during the first hour of our program. We did get a little wet. We heard some big thunder during our conversation with Eli Stowers, but we have persevered. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the Sounds have their final home stand of the season. It continues tonight, 6:35 first pitch right here at First Horizon Park. So if you haven't been to a game yet this season, or you're looking to squeeze one more in before the end of baseball season in Nashville, come on out to the ballpark tonight.
Get your butt to the ballpark.
Get your
Right
butt
now.
to the ballpark. You heard the man.
Get your butt to the ballpark.
You heard the
right
man.
now. You, right now.
Yeah, you.
Get to the ballpark.
Okay,
Sir,
okay,
get to the
okay.
ballpark.
Calm
Ma'am, get to the
yourself
ballpark.
down.
Grab your kids, get to the ballpark right now.
Get your finger out of your nose.
Yes.
Put
get to
your
the
hands
ballpark.
on the wheel and put in First Horizon Park into your GPS.
Get on over here.
But speaking of games in Nashville, Sunday at noon, the Tennessee Titans will host their home opener against the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, by the way, favored by 5.5 in that contest. The Rams coming off of a home win against the Houston Texans last week. I believe the score was 14-9 in favor of the Rams. So Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and company on their way to Nashville this weekend. And there are only so many home openers left at the old Nissan Stadium. This one, and I guess next, and then the new Nissan Stadium is expected to open. And I know reporters took a tour of the new Nissan Stadium yesterday to see the progress, and Titans officials expect the new Nissan Stadium to be fully enclosed by September 2026, and they believe the construction project is still on pace to be completed by February 2027. That according to the Tennessean. But here's what I'm wondering, and I want your thoughts on this as well at 615-737-1025. I am curious about what kind of crowd we are going to see at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Titans, they've been bad. They've been bad for quite a while. They've won, what, 7 games over the, or 9 games? How many games have the Titans won over the past 2.5 years? Not very many.
Not many. Let's just say that.
I think about 9.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. You all know that. I don't have to tell you that. But it is the first game of the season. Hope springs eternal, despite what happened last weekend in Denver. It's Cam Ward's official Titans home opening debut. I'm not counting the preseason or that time he showed up at the Savannah Bananas game. I'm talking about playing a meaningful football game on the field at Nissan Stadium. And that's special, right? You hope that Cam Ward turns into a franchise quarterback and you can say you were there for Cam Ward's debut at Nissan Stadium. But we know about the construction around the stadium, lack of parking, the fact that the Titans haven't been very good. The Rams aren't really known as a traveling fan base. This isn't the Packers or the Raiders. You know, the Rams are not super close, obviously, geographically. It's not like the Colts fans who can just drive down here or Falcons fans who can drive up here. So, Willie, what do you think the crowd's going to be like, in not just in terms of the actual attendance, but the vibe in the stadium for Cam Ward's debut on Sunday?
I'm concerned, and you've got a couple of things working for you for the first game. The first game, especially when you have Cam Ward, the first game usually sells out in general.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Cam Ward, but the X factor is that you've got to make an effort, an extra effort to get to the stadium now with all of the construction going on. I am very curious to see what people's experience ends up being who go, and do they report back and say, yeah, it wasn't as bad to get into the stadium. Let's just take something that happened recently in our city. Vanderbilt did an overhaul of their stadium, and they're just now getting the fruits, starting to get the fruits of all of the effort. But it took 2 seasons, and in particular 2 years ago, getting into that stadium was a really, really difficult thing. I did it a few times, and you had to know exactly what side of the stadium you were supposed to sit on and how to get into that side. Because if you got in there and you were on the wrong side, you had to go back out and go around. It was difficult. And I don't know how well they've done at getting the message out to their fans of where you park now, if you used to park where the stadium is being built right now. So you've got all of those things. And, of course, they have let Nissan Stadium, decline faster because all of the resources are being put into the new place. So you got to want to go. You're not going there for the amenities. So I think it's a benchmark to see, how loyal the fan base is and how excited they are just to watch Cam Ward.
I don't think there's going to be much buzz outside of the stadium because the construction doesn't lend for it. They only got so many parking spaces on the other side of the Cumberland. And a lot of people are going to be parked, in other places, not in their usual parking spaces. So that buzz that you sort of get as you come up to the stadium, just because of what they're doing, that's gone. So it has to be inside the stadium. How's the buzz going to be inside the stadium? Well, it depends on how quickly you can get everybody inside those gates and ready to go. If people are still waiting outside prior to kickoff, the buzz is going to be horrible. If you can find some way, and I suggest that people, if you left 2 hours before the game, you may want to leave 3 hours before the game. Now, no, seriously, because of the lack of parking spaces on the other side and the construction that they're doing. So the Titans got to find a way, and I'm sure they've talked about this. They got to find a way to get people in that stadium as quickly and as orderly as possible to get them in their seats, because they owe that to their rookie quarterback. He needs to walk out in the first place. That stadium needs to be packed and making a lot of noise when he takes his first snap underneath center at that stadium in the regular season game. Will it happen? I'm not sure it will because of what's going on over there. That's, fans, they have nothing to do with that. But again, if you left 2 hours for the game, leave 3 hours for the game. If you left 3 hours for the game, then make sure that you keep that same time, because it's going to be it may just be a mess over there because of the construction that they're doing.
I would love to know from some fans, some of our listeners, are you going to the game? Especially if you've been going to games over the years, have you figured out where you're going to park? Did you go to the preseason games? Because we know the regular season opening day is going to be different
much different
than a preseason game.
Yes.
So 615-737-1025. I just want to hear what's your plan, and have you gone into a mode of I'm just going to wait till the new stadium opens before I really make the effort to go down there? I don't know if that's the mindset, or are you like, hey, it's a lot easier to get the tickets now than it will be in a couple years, so I'm just gonna go. You could get some bargains going in there. I haven't checked StubHub on the secondary market, how easy it would be to get in there. I would imagine it's easier than most opening days because it's the Rams. It's not a team that's going to bring a lot of fans, I don't think. I could be wrong about that, but what's the vibe? Let's do a vibe check on who's going on Sunday.
We can do that. 615-737-1025. By the way, the Titans have lost 10 of their past 12 games at Nissan Stadium, including 7 of the past 8.
Wow.
And 4 in a row.
Well, they don't have a home field advantage, it doesn't seem like.
Their last win at home was that win against the Patriots in overtime when Drake May with the miraculous play at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But and I acknowledge that I don't have the proper perspective on this. So back in the day, and Willie knows this too, back in the day when I was traveling to cover the Nashville Predators, I had the opportunity to go to arenas all over the NHL. And I was able to compare and contrast atmospheres. And you hear that Bridgestone Arena has a great atmosphere for Predators games. Compared to the rest of the league, that's true. Bridgestone Arena does have a reputation for having a great atmosphere. and I could compare it to all of the other buildings around the league that I've been to. I haven't been to too many other NFL stadiums, but my experiences at Nissan Stadium, I'm trying to think of a good word to describe the vibe at Nissan Stadium. How about placid, sedate? It's not ding. It's not a great atmosphere. It feels stale. You know, I when I've gone to games, I know that there are so many diehard Titans fans, but I just don't feel like there's a lot of energy in that building. And I know that the Titans haven't given most of you, or all of you really, anything to cheer for, but I just like that's what I'm wondering about. I'm wondering if the excitement of Cam Ward's home debut, first game of the season, they're only 0-1, they're not 0-6 yet, you know, something like that. I'm wondering if that juices things up. But in my experience going to Nissan Stadium, it's just not a great atmosphere. And I'm wondering, you know, Derek brings it up. Hey, you want Cam Ward to feel excited, to feel energized running into that stadium. He's going to get a great ovation, I'm sure. But I am wondering about just the vibe in that building on Sunday.
I try to go to a game or two every year. I may go as a fan on Sunday. I'm going to try. And one thing that I always think about when I go in there, and maybe it'll be different, I don't think it will be if I go on Sunday, that if you put me in a hot tub time machine and beamed me back to 1999, 2000, 2001, the structure is exactly the same. They have not done anything with the times to renovate, upgrade, all that stuff. They're very fortunate that our city is so vibrant that there's ulterior motives beyond the Titans to build a state-of-the-art stadium. The Titans are benefiting from that, in my opinion, because you can get a Super Bowl, the Final Four. Our city is so built for big events that's where I think a lot of the motivation to build one. It wasn't just, hey, the Titans need a better place to play, because the Titans, I think, could have done such a better job of upgrading and renovating the facility. They haven't done anything. The club area and the pro shop and everything, it's exactly the same. And it was very basic at the start. And over time, I think that's where they've lost. Now, when D-Mace was playing and it was brand new and they came out of the gates the way they did, that sustained them for a long time. They did have a great home field advantage for several years. But as that cycled away, there wasn't anything that would bring you down there to make it a special place to go watch a game.
Well, I want the two of you to help me out with this because you have been here longer than I have. And again, I acknowledge that I don't have the complete perspective because I haven't had the opportunity to travel to all of these different NFL stadiums. You know, I'm a Saints fan, and I've been to countless games at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome or the Caesars Superdome, whatever it is now. And I know New Orleans is unique, but on game days, there is a vibe. The moment you walk out of your hotel room, there is a vibe. The crowd moves from Bourbon Street downtown to the Superdome, and there's a lot of tailgating and lots of different activities around the stadium. And I know this may be like a placement of the stadium sort of thing, but like you wake up on a Sunday in New Orleans when the Saints are at home, and you know it's game day. I don't live far from the stadium. Willie, you don't live far from the stadium. I don't get that vibe around here. I don't know if it's the state of the team or what have you, but you know, it just feels like Sunday, and the Titans happen to be playing today. I mean, you guys tell me if I'm completely off base thinking like this way.
I mean, a lot of it comes with winning. I mean, you start winning football games, you know, people start coming, and even the casual fans start to come even more. Why? Because people want to be a part of winning, whether it's a organization or whatever. People just want to be a part of winning, especially when you're connecting it to the city. So if they start winning, all the stuff that we're talking about, it'll take care of itself.
But when they had the 6 straight winning years,
yeah, it was.
I did not think that they were able to get anything close to what you guys had when you guys were winning.
It was a perfect. That was because
the
it was a
atmosphere
perfect.
still wasn't the same.
Yeah, because it was a perfect storm. We walked into a situation where you got a city that never had a pro football team, a city that it wasn't growing. It was what it was. Nashville, it was in '97. And then we were playing in Memphis, so the anticipation of them coming, and we're going 8-8. Then we moved to Vanderbilt, and we have another 8-8 season. But you could see something within the team that they got some players here. And then all of a sudden in '99, we're going to a new stadium, and it's just a perfect storm. A team that took 3 years, because it was a year prior to mine, and maybe even 2 years prior to the year I got there. So it took a team 5 years. In 5 years, they were able to build a Super Bowl caliber team, and they did it, and they were able to sustain it for a few years after that. And then all of a sudden, the bottom fell out for whatever reason. They tried to build it back up. They did it for a couple of seasons here and there, but it's never been the same. Why? Because the fortunate part about those first couple of years was Nashville didn't have to deal with the Houston stuff. They didn't have to deal with the Houston losing, winning 1-2 games. They didn't have to deal with that. When they came to Nashville, 8-8, 8-8.
They were building.
Exactly. And then you go on a Super Bowl run and ultimately find yourself in the Super Bowl. So that was what they experienced. So to them, we are trying to get the games. There was a waiting line, and I'm sure there's still to some extent a waiting line, but there was a waiting line. So it's hard to recreate that, because that will never happen again unless this team picks up and moves to another state. So to try to recreate that is impossible. What you got to do now is, first and foremost, knowing what's going on over there, anybody outside of putting like the X's and O's and making sure the team is ready to go, anybody outside of that, their job should be to, how do we get the fans in that stadium ASAP on Sunday without any hiccups?
I know as we've evolved since those times too, it's gotten tougher and tougher to keep other teams' fans out. Yeah. They travel to Nashville. They know how to get the tickets on the secondary market. That's been an issue too. But I have found when they went through the dip and they had Mariota and they started to win Malarkey's last year and then the years with Vrabel. And of course, one of them you have to cancel out because one of them was 2020 where they couldn't have the fans in the building for most of the year. So that one you don't count. But I found it very easy on the secondary market most of the time there to be able to go whenever I wanted. With on the secondary market, pretty easily getting discounted tickets there. So I just think even when they were winning, they lost the atmosphere. Now, I just think there's a lot of reasons you could write down. It would be very easy for a fan to say, I don't know, the construction and they're not very good. So I just want to know, are people going to the game on Sunday?
615-737-1025. What sort of crowd do you expect for the Titans season opener, considering the state of the team, the construction, all of those things? For Cam Ward's not his NFL debut, his home debut in the NFL. 615-737-1025. We will get to your reaction next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. 615-499-5780. I've been telling you about the new rates that they've got. The lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. Loan Pronto's rate reduction home loan program is for you. If you got stuck with a high rate mortgage recently, you need to get on this streamlined low-cost program. It's a way to slash your house payments by hundreds of dollars a month. You can get locked into a fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR. You can also close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases. You can skip your next 2 house payments entirely. These rates aren't going to last for long, so call Loan Pronto now for the free, no-obligation quote. Lower payments, more money in your pocket, a fresh start. 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Lock in that new low rate. 615-499-5780, loanpronto.com. MLS.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
And what are the emotions of having your first NFL touchdown potentially in front of Titans fans at Nissan Stadium?
I really have no emotion for it. I just want the football. Other than that, I really don't want the other ones. But I mean, I'm excited. I threw a lot of touchdowns before. I know I'm gonna throw a lot of touchdowns in the NFL. But you know, if the first one come in Nissan, you know that'd be one I'm ready for.
It should be noted that Cam Ward, preseason included, has yet to throw a touchdown pass in the NFL. Could we see the first one on Sunday at Nissan Stadium? And how many of you will be there? 615-737-1025. We've got some calls. But before we get to those calls, Willie, you and I have been called out on the YouTube chat by Ricky. He calls me Hater Boy Adam. He calls you GM Willie.
That's GM Willie.
Yes. GM Willie.
And GM see that.
And Hater Boy.
Hater boy.
I was more of a skater boy, not a hater boy, when I was younger. But
I guess I'm honored.
I guess
that I'm a
GM Willie.
But
Ricky,
I'm a GM of my fantasy team.
Let's read Ricky's comment before we get to your phones at 615-737-1025. Of course, GM Willie and Hater Boy Adam are way off base. The amenities of the stadium have nothing to do with the lack of support. We had a good year in 1999, 2001, maybe another year with Keith Bullock, and then we had 2019 and 20. The rest of these seasons have sucked. Not only have the season sucked, but the teams have sucked with no exciting players besides Derrick Henry and Chris Johnson. Excuse me, Derek Mason. He goes, I bet the place will be packed on Sunday. Haters. You're responsible, Don.
Well, that's what I'm asking. That's what I want to get the pulse from our listeners here.
Yes,
if they're going,
let's go.
You should. It's going to be hot. It's going to hit 90.
We have a few people have mentioned the weather.
Yeah, it is going to be hot. It shouldn't matter for opening day.
That's right. I agree with that.
And I can recite a lot of games that were very cold in December, but they're like, if you win this game, you're going to the playoffs. Get to the game. I don't care if it's rain. Oh, I don't know if I can go. It might be cold. I mean, that's fine. That you're right, but don't call yourself a great city. This is a test because it's a lame duck stadium. It's been a losing team, but this is a benchmarker here. Can you sell out opening day?
Let's go to Stu from Nashville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Stu, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, love y'all. Listen every day. Been a Titans fan since day one. I will be there opening day. I'm excited, but I will say I'm going solo. I'm not bringing my wife because of the hesitation of what are we looking like in the second half. And for the fans, I understand we got to win a game, but I do not want to be there opening day cheering my butt off, and then it's run, pass on 3rd and long. So what I want to see is, let's come out, do something for the fans. Let's see it for Cam Ward. Let's throw it deep. That's all I got to say. Love y'all. Keep listening.
Thank you, Stu.
Thank you, Stu. Well, Stu, you don't have to worry about them throwing deep because they led the NFL in air yardage, didn't they? They were
right.
like 10 point something.
Cam Ward
so chucking
led
that
the NFL in air yards per attempt last week at 10.8 air yards per attempt.
And I need him to bring that down.
But he only completed
1 of 12.
1 of 12.
Yes.
1 of 12.
A few were dropped.
Do I hear 6 for 12?
Bring it down. Bring it down.
Let's go to Jim from Clarksville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Jim, thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been a season ticket holder for 10 years, and I haven't missed a game in 10 years, regardless of the weather, regardless of the heat, or the winning or losing. This fan base needs to step up and show out and not let the visiting teams come to our stadium and take it over.
Thank you for the call, Jim. Now,
Jim said it.
I'm not as concerned about that on Sunday. I don't consider the LA Rams to have a fan base that travels incredibly well. You think of, remember what happened last season when the Vikings came to town? It was basically a Vikings home game. There were skull chants everywhere, purple in the stands, as far as the eye could see. You think of the Raiders and some of the more historic franchises. So I don't see that being an issue on Sunday, but I understand the point. One texter says, guys, thank you. You just talked me and half of Nashville into avoiding Nissan Stadium at all costs, saving my time and money, and will watch the Titans lay an egg from my back porch.
Hey, see, this is I'm sure this is something that the Titans, brass talked about. How do we make the traffic as fluid as possible, knowing that, all this construction is going on? Because, if you're not winning and you have traffic, people are just not going to come. You got to give them you got to give them something. So first, you got to figure out how you're going to get them into the stadium quickly. And then 2, once they're in the stadium, you got to give them a good product on the field, because ultimately that is what will keep them coming to the stadium.
I pulled up StubHub. I am not the master at, I'm old school I used to just, if scalping were legal, which what it is, I guess it still is, there's very few paper tickets floating around. But back in the paper tickets, the old technique of just waiting, shopping around. If you're patient, you find the guy that's just trying to dump his tickets on anybody, and you take the cheapest deal. But if you were to go to StubHub, this is what I'm seeing here. There's a wide range of prices of availability, but on this is the secondary market, right? So these are tickets that I presume are already sold. But $59 is the lowest that I'm seeing, and it ranges from there. You know, there's a lot in the $50 to $70 range that are open, and you can go higher if you want to sit.
You're saying that there are tickets out there.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable price for opening day against a good team with Cam Ward's first ever game in Nashville.
And even how often do the Rams come to Nashville? You can see Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. You know, that's part of it as well, I'm sure. Skylar on our text line says, I get third-person embarrassment watching this team and this coach on TV. Hell no, I'm not trying to go to the game.
What?
LOL.
What?
Secondhand embarrassment? You don't suffer
so.
from this? I suffer from it greatly.
I suffered from it last year.
Willie's going to have it tonight when I'm doing whatever the hell I'm doing on the field.
To be determined.
At this game.
I want to see Willie Hat come down a little bit.
William on our YouTube chat says, people from St. Louis may come down here. We talked about this the other day.
I'm curious. Do you know somebody from St. Louis that's coming?
I think St. Louis has disowned the Rams in every form.
Oh, I can remember when that was going on, and man, they were bitter.
William also says, stop playing so much gosh darn country music at the game. Well, I'm sorry, William. I mean, we are in Nashville. I'm not the biggest country music fan myself, but it's when you live in Nashville.
In general, right? You're going to get some, but
yes.
In general, I have not ever really heard anybody say, "What a great game presentation! They play great music. Their promotions are great." They have been lacking in that area. I think it's the general consensus.
Mark in Ashland City on Cam Ward said, technically he completed 2 of those, meaning Cam Ward's intermediate to deep throws. But Callahan doesn't know the rules. Sorry, I know I beat that dead horse to death again and again, but I can't get over it. The 3 dudes sitting in a living room in Pleasant View knew immediately that it was a catch, but the coach did it, and the guy that coach hires to know didn't. SMH. Shake my head. Mark in Ashland City. Andrew from Dover says, my last game I went to was the 60-yard game winner against the Colts. I will watch it home till the new stadium is done. Derrick Henry coming back would be the only reason I would go back to the current stadium.
Is anybody I would love for people to share maybe what they have to do instead of parking where you used to park. Like the gentleman that called that said he's never missed a game. I'm curious. Is his routine been thrown off? Because there's got to be thousands that are in that boat.
One texter mentions the WeGo bus you can take to the Titans game on Sunday. Another texter mentioned the train. You can take the train right to the game.
If you live from the out east, you can come in from the east. Yeah, Lebanon.
Yeah. I am curious. And this is, look, Titans fans, we know you love your team. This is not us trying to poo-poo all over your favorite team.
I want you to go to the game.
Right. We want you to go to the game. You know, I'm just curious when you combine everything, when you combine the fact that the team is in disarray, that Nissan Stadium is closing in a couple of years, and I think I've made this comparison before. We've all rented apartments, right? You're about to move out of your apartment, and you notice that the upkeep is a little, you haven't really been taking care of it. And you think to yourself, well, it's not my problem anymore. I'm moving out. So it's up to the apartment to fix it and the next tenant to deal with it. And I'm wondering if the Titans feel that way about the current Nissan Stadium. It's just like, hey, we'll just make sure that it doesn't crumble to the earth for the next couple of years, and we'll move on.
I think they've been doing that for the last 5 years, really.
Well, I think they have made some upgrades to the stadium.
But what? Name one. What's an upgrade?
Structural wise,
the club seats are the same.
I'm saying structural wise, they have not done anything to the stadium. They haven't. But as far as like from communications and stuff like that, adding more stores, I guess restaurants, they've done a little, but not enough. To not need a new stadium. Now, obviously, they're building a new stadium, and what person wouldn't, as they're building a new stadium, they wouldn't put all their money into the old stadium. They'd be like, okay, let's just maintain it for the next couple of years. Like you said, Adam, don't let it crumble. Make sure structurally we're good.
Yes,
because we're going into a new stadium. But I do advise Titan fans and those that are sort of on the fence, go to the game. If you got to get there 3 hours early, or if you got to alter your routine a little bit to support your team, go. I think, and this is just me, but I think that your quarterback deserves that. I know he hadn't done a lot. He hadn't done anything right now. But for him to walk into a half full stadium or half empty stadium, no, I'm gonna say a half full stadium because I'm a guy, glass half full.
Like
but
Willie.
a half full stadium, that would be a disappointment. It really would. So if you can, Titans fans that are going and those that may be on the fence, if you're on the fence, get off that fence and get on the side of going. If you're going, make sure you make sure you leave yourself enough time so you get to those gates smoothly. And please bring a bag that you can see through, people. bring a clear bag. Guy. Yes, please.
Don't be that guy.
I want you to get in those seats, and I want when Cam take that snap underneath center, when he walks out there, I want there to be at least 60,000 people in the stands. I know it holds a little bit more, but at least 60,000 people in that stand cheer for that young man.
Let's go to Daniel quickly on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Daniel, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll be at the game on Sunday. Don't really want to give, I got a secret spot that I park in over by across the.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
It's not a secret.
Exactly. You can't say it, man.
It's on the downtown side. I'm not going to tell you exactly where it is. It costs $5 at the park. But I get in and out great. Walk across the bridge. Get over there in 30 minutes. I live in Spring Hill. Get there in 35, 40 minutes. It's great. You get out of the stadium. Now, Derek, you said we didn't get people in the stadium. Well, Derek, we didn't keep people in the stadium. That's the big thing.
Yeah, you're right.
In the stadium. So hopefully we keep people in the stadium in the fourth quarter. But I'll be there, and hopefully we can see Cam Ward lighting up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Daniel.
He's right. I mean, the Titans, you need, fans, do your part. If your routine needs to be altered a little bit because there's construction over there, please alter it a little bit. Okay. If you're still going to church, go to church at 8:00. Don't try to go to the 11 o'clock service and try to get over there and leave a little bit early. Go to the 8 o'clock service so you can be out and be headed to the game after that. If you get your coffee a little bit extra early so you can get over to the stadium so you can be in your seats when Cam Ward is underneath center for the first time in your stadium. And then Tennessee Titans and the coaching staff, you need to do your job to make sure, like the caller said, keeping people inside of that stadium once they come in.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on the atmosphere on Sunday for Cam Ward's home debut. And we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here, and if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. That's why Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at First Horizon Park. Sounds final homestand of the season. First pitch at 6:35 tonight right here at First Horizon Park. Willie and I are sticking around for the game. I am partaking in some sort of between-inning competition. I have no idea what it is.
Does it involve fishing since they're playing the Stripers? Is that possible?
I don't know. I'm a little worried about it. Apparently, Chase and Jake are taking part in a cow milking competition at the Nashville Fairgrounds, so I don't think it's going to be that. But we shall see. Come on out and see me most likely embarrass myself in front of thousands of people. That's worth the price of admission.
You're not going to embarrass yourself.
That's worth the price of admission as far as I'm concerned. All right. So, Willie Donick, you have made Ricky mad on our YouTube chat. You are no longer GM Willie. You are Alumni Willie. Ricky says, Alumni Willie should have been more on Vanderbilt's ass more than he's been on the Titans' ass. The Titans Stadium has been kept up 10 times better than Vanderbilt did for 40 freaking years, Willie. Alumni Willie. Alumni Willie has been awfully quiet the last 25 years about the embarrassment to Nashville that is Vanderbilt's 110-year-old dilapidated stadium.
They get a new stadium.
Be consistent, Alumni Willie. Your thoughts?
Well, he's not wrong. Vanderbilt was woefully behind in upkeeping their stadium. It's a little, that Vanderbilt Stadium is way, way older, though, than Nissan Stadium.
When did Vanderbilt Stadium open?
Oh, that stadium opened in, they've built onto it. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly what year, but it goes the 70s. I can't remember what year they renovated. It was long before I got to Nashville, but I don't know. Let me just say this. Look, it has been a constant theme on shows that I've been a part of, and now I'm in 31 years now and doing sports talk. And if Ricky hasn't heard us talk about the facilities at Vanderbilt, that is a trope, if you will. The label of Vanderbilt being woefully behind in facilities.
Come on, Ricky.
That has recurred on and off every single year, every single decade.
Check the back catalog. Come on.
Now, look, I mean, that's been it's indisputable, right? So we don't even debate. It's not debatable, right? So, but I see Ricky's point. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that's well-covered territory.
Hey, they're doing a good job. They're renovating now.
Yeah, it finally, it's about time. And you're seeing, hopefully, with them having a good team, they've got a chance to build momentum off of that.
Matt wonders about our Nissan Stadium conversation. Does the poor customer experience fall on Amy Adams Strunk? That seems like a very easy thing to fix.
That to me, has been the thing. And I will tie it in with Vanderbilt's stadium. You can have shortcomings in the way the place is built, but people notice how much of an effort you're making to try to make do with what you have. And I think both have been lacking in that area over the years, right? I think especially NFL ticket prices are a little different than they are for Vanderbilt football games. And I have been to Titans games in the upper deck, and I think that's really the judgment sometimes is how do you treat the fans in the upper deck? I know if you're paying a lot of money for the club, you're going to have better amenities. But if people just want to get a soda and a pretzel or a hot dog at halftime and you can't make it in and out of the concession stand by the end of the half, that's a problem. That has been a problem.
The stadium, neither one of the stadiums, and I'm talking Vanderbilt Stadium and Nissan Stadium, which was Adelphia, which was the Coliseum. It's been through three different names.
LP Field.
LP Field. That's four.
Remember that one?
Yeah. So neither one of the stadiums until now has grown with the city. Neither one of them. The city has grown, but the stadium has stayed what it was. They probably, like you said, when I said, well, they have made some changes, you said what? Because there hadn't been anything big and grand that you can notice, like looking at the stadium. They haven't, but they have. I think each stadium has tried to do things from a communication standpoint to make it better, but it hasn't grown as the city's grown. Now, both, one, the university, and now the Titans, they both decided that, okay, we need a new stadium. Vandy's adding on to theirs. From what they finished, it looks great. The Titans are building theirs, and I'm sure once it's done, it's going to be fabulous. So That's the disappointing part, is that through all of this, as the city was growing at a rapid pace, those two stadiums didn't grow with it.
I want to hear back from all of you who are going to the game on Monday. So go to the game on Sunday. We'll break down Rams-Titans on Monday. If you go to the game, I want to hear how it was. So check back with us in a few days and let us know about the atmosphere. Willie, I do want to quickly show some love to the Nashville Predators. They were on the ice today for the start of rookie camp. Training camp starts next week. So all of the players, you all know, will be practicing again. I believe the first practice is a week from tomorrow, but you went out to Centennial Sportsplex today. What were your takeaways from rookie camp?
Well, this group is an important group, as we've talked about. So much is riding on the Predators finding 3, 4, 5 core pieces on some level. Maybe not superstars. I think that's the wrap on this group. They're ranked 10th as a prospect pool, but there doesn't seem to be that superstar, budding superstar that every franchise would love to have. But it's an interesting group of guys that they had out there. And they'll be going down to Tampa for the yearly rookie tournament. It was in Nashville last year. This year it's down in Tampa. So they practiced today. I got a chance to see Brady Martin, for example, for the first time in person. Matthew Wood. These guys you've been hearing about for 2 or 3 years now. Tanner Molendijk and Joachim Kemmel. And, what can you tell from one practice? It was good to see them out there, but it just – I look at them and I see a lot of guys who show up in these prospect pools as potential NHL player. Is he a top 6? Is he a middle 6? Is he just going to be playing games in the league? But could he be a good role player? These are all the questions that they have with that particular group, because I think the Barry Trotz era as a GM is going to be defined largely by how this group does It may not be this year, right? I'd love for 1 or 2 of them to pop this year and contribute to the team. But really, it's starting next year and the 2 or 3 years after that. That's when you're really going to see how well they've drafted and developed.
And a lot of those young players are going to stick around for the main camp. They'll do the rookie camp. They'll play in the rookie tournament. You can catch a glimpse of what these players bring to the table. They usually play, and correct me if I'm wrong, they usually play the Lightning, Panthers, and Hurricanes, correct?
Yeah, it's always the same 4 teams.
That Southeast corridor. So you can get a glimpse of what these young players bring to the table. Matthew Wood and Brady Martin and Tanner Molendijk, they'll stick around for the main camp with the veteran players. They'll play in preseason games with the veteran players. So you can get a look at them there too.
The guy that I was hearing some buzz about, not particularly how he played today, but the guy I'm hearing made a jump is Reed Schaefer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a part of the Matthias Ekholm trade. He was drafted by the Oilers, a late first-round pick. And Barry Trotz has always said about Reed Schaefer, bigger guys take a little longer. David Edstrom is another guy. I saw Schaefer and Edstrom going head-to-head in some competitions today. Both big guys. And you really want that element ingredient on your team. But Schaefer's the guy. He's a little bit older, and he's getting to the age where it's time for him to make the jump. Last year, his season got off to a great start, and then he got injured and didn't play that much the rest of the year. So he kind of went off the radar, but I think they've always been high on him. They thought he could be a late bloomer. That's a name that I took note of today, just to, can he stay late into training camp and challenge for a spot? And then, of course, in the backdrop of all this, for the big team, the one unfinished business part of it is they still haven't signed Luke Evangelista, and it's getting crunch time, right? It's usually that forces the deal. It will get done eventually, but I think we're all curious of what that deal ends up being.
And training camp, the team reports to training camp, I believe, a week from today, but they're not on the ice for practice until a week from tomorrow. And all of those practices are at Ford Ice Bellevue. The Predators released their schedule a couple of days ago. So if you want to go to a practice, go to the Predators website. All of the times will be there. And by the way, Predators fans, starting Wednesday, a week from yesterday, the return of Preds Insiders, the first edition, Willie and I will bring it to you live right after DVD next Wednesday from 6 to 7. So the return of Preds Insiders next week as training camp rolls around. All right, we're at First Horizon Park, Sounds and Stripers.
Are you nervous?
I think he's getting nervous.
Well,
Billy.
here's what
nobody's come over and said, Adam, here's what you're going to be doing. You know, if you want to go down the line by the bandbox and, you know, do a little warm up or practice, let me show you what you're doing. This is, I'm a little concerned for you.
Hey, Willie, give him a couple pointers, man.
A feat of strength of some kind.
I don't know. Is it going to involve baseball? Like,
all I know is I have to go to the guest services desk right when I'm done here and find out what I'm doing.
Okay.
And depending,
it's a mystery.
And depending on what they say, will determine how many beverages I have after the show. So, but you know, Big Joe Dubin was featured on Tuesday singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I know Woody and Jim, I think, took their turn at singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I am definitely not singing. That is for sure.
Okay, you've told them that.
Yeah. So, so for those of you coming with small children, you know, I have a 4-year-old son. He's got those headphones that you wear in loud situations. You do not have to bring them tonight because I am not singing, so you do not have to shield their ears. But I am curious. But I'm glad to be out here. Always love coming out to the ballpark and representing the Nashville Sounds, great partners with our station. This is their final homestand of the season. They have a few games left. I believe their last game is either Saturday or Sunday. Forgive me for not knowing, but we have a couple of games left here at First Horizon Park. The sun is out. The storm is gone. No clouds in the sky. If you're looking for an activity tonight and you haven't been to a game or you want to get one more in,
get your butt in the stands.
Get your butt in the stands. Get your butt in the stands on Sunday, as Derek said, for Cam Ward's home debut as well.
Hey, did they tell you were not singing?
I just
no. Did they tell you were not doing any singing?
On the same email that Big Joe Dubin was listed as singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," it just had me doing some sort of competition.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it's a singing competition. Oh man,
Big Joe.
Oh man. Anyway, we'll all find out together. We'll have a full report of my triumph or embarrassment tomorrow on the program. We will continue our preview of Rams Titans. Ask D-May starting at 5 o'clock as we wrap up the week. But for all of us here, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm stepping on Derek's thing here. I'll let him do it. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved. Love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Thursday. I love you. We love you. Peace.